Welcome to Bonded Voices. This episode is When is Too Much? And we're talking about Christmas lights and decorations. Reason this topic's come up, it's December, everyone's setting up their Christmas stuff, and you're starting to see blow-ups that are 50 feet tall, you're starting to see lights that, light up the sky at night with light pollution. When is too much? I'm Ian.
I'm Greg.
I'm Lauren.
And so, let's dig into this. Are we getting to a point, like we're here in Phoenix, Arizona, Phoenix, Scottsdale, where, is it too much? Are people going overboard? Are the people selling these things going overboard with the things they're selling?
Well, there's that one neighborhood that the whole streets, both sides of the streets are... It's the entire neighborhood. They have street lights going across both sides of the street. Like everyone's got these themes. They're going with it, and it's really fun to go see. And the kids enjoyed it growing up. But is that really the Christmas spirit we're trying to go for, or are we just trying to do the decorations?
Well, is it overcompensation, or is it more people actually feeling that they can publicly celebrate Christmas?
I think there's a bit of everything in there. And maybe it's just, being a bit of a traditionalist, but there's a point where, you get these houses that have got 20 blow-ups in there. They've got Snoopy and they've got, not just Santa Claus and that. They have
Star Wars themed.
Star Wars, exactly. In our neighborhood, there's a Star Wars one.
Yes.
They've got these huge blow-ups of Star Wars, and then... there's a couple I've seen with reindeer on top of garage roofs that have got to be 30 feet up in the sky. These things are enormous. And I just keep thinking to myself, how big's big enough?
Well, if Clark Griswold taught us anything from Christmas Vacation, it needs to be big enough to shut down the grid.
Well, I think of the power you need to keep one of those blow-ups up.
Well, so interestingly enough, if you think about when we were young, they were incandescent bulbs, and now they're LED bulbs.
Yeah, right.
Their consumption of electricity is dramatically less. Now, that's different than that buzzing that you hear blowing up the 50-foot Santa.
Right. But, I keep thinking, if you turn up in your neighborhood one day and all of a sudden you look up and you look up and you look up and someone's gone for the mega extreme Santa Claus that's now 50 feet tall.
Well, then how close are you to an airport? That might create some issues.
But they're getting there.
Well, we have a neighbor that just throws as many blow-ups in the yard as possible. There's if you see grass or gravel, it's a bad...
Good luck.
Yeah.
Right.
It's probably 100 blow-ups in their front yard, and you're like, it's kind of cool to see.
Sure.
But, yeah.
See, I don't know if you've seen by our kids' school, a guy's got skeletons with Santa hats on. It's kind of freaky. And he goes out, he's got a crash car with skeletons and huge, and these things 12-foot tall skeletons with Santa hats on and things like that. So...
I admire the creativity. I mean, that's kind of fun. That guy's going out of his way to create something. Whether or not you like what he produced, he's not buying that off Amazon.
See, I'm of the ilk of I don't care whether what they're doing. I think that the celebratory stuff, lighting up the Christmas season's great. But I just wonder whether we get to a point where how bright is too bright? Are there already laws in place where you can't have it too bright?
Well, I'm sure that there are light pollution laws depending upon the neighborhood.
Right.
There are parts here in Phoenix that have limitations. In fact, recent conversation that I had with someone was all outdoor lights need to be down facing. So even if you have those cafe lights where it's just the bulb, because it doesn't have a shield over it, that's against city code.
Really? I didn't know that.
So that people have on their back patios quite often. But unless somebody complains, I mean, really, who's going to go after the neighbor
with the string of lights? Yeah,
right. So there are laws on the books that probably just aren't enforced or police are busy.
See, interestingly, our neighbour put in a security light, and we saw the guy put it in. All good. Yeah, he's putting security lights. Then nighttime came, and in our kitchen it went, whoa! This thing lit up the whole kitchen with this big bright LED. So we asked the neighbours, it's like, sunscreen, we need to turn this thing down. And they're like, oh my goodness, I didn't realise.
Another funny scene from Christmas Vacation.
Yeah, right. but I, and I just think about it, like, how, at what point is celebration just get into the gaudy stage, but also get into the stage where it's just rude? Like, how big does it get before it's just rude?
Well, and then you run into I don't mean to cut you off, but then you run into you're a bah humbug guy.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, you only have 3 inflatable Santas in your front yard, so you're not in the Christmas spirit.
See, I always, and I see a few of them nowadays, but the Luminarios that being out here early on, that's what everyone used. Now it's like blow-ups, and you can see the evolution of how everything's changed over the last 15, 20 years.
Sure.
How it went from just lights to blow-ups to bigger blow-ups and more blow-ups. And then you have music synchronized lighting.
Yeah.
If you go into certain neighborhoods that tune your radio to this station and listen to it. And
like I saw a house the other day with LED panels on the roof. And when these things come on at night, you can read numbers on the planes. I mean, it's so bright the way it lit the whole thing up. I kept thinking, are they allowed to do that? Like, at what point does it get to its where it's like, yeah, but it's the balance between bah humbug and seriously?
Well, that case, unfortunately, a small aircraft will crash. And then they will determine that they were blinded. The pilot was blinded, couldn't see.
Right.
And then they'll change the laws. The old gravestone law making.
Right.
Plane crashes, we change the laws. It's interesting that you mentioned the Luminarias. So we grew up, our neighborhood, it was a huge event where all the families would get together. And someone would get a couple of tons of sand dumped in their driveway, and somebody's driving around with a pickup truck, and they load the sand in the pickup truck, and then people are hanging off the tailgate, sitting there, filling the brown bags, handing it to the kids, who are then inserting the candle and setting it at the prescribed every 3 feet, whatever it was.
Right.
And it was the whole neighborhood. And so then the responsibility of who's going to light the candles, who's going to put them out tonight, and so that revolved around through different groups in the neighborhood, and it was fun. It was very community bonding.
I was just going to say that brings everyone together, and it makes that the reason for the season.
Sure. Yeah, it definitely was I wouldn't say even the playing field, but this was long before the 50-foot Santa inflatable. But it was just a different view on what looks nice.
Yeah, and I don't think the people who are doing it now are doing it to, and maybe generalizing it, to overly celebrate the season, the Christmas season. I think they're doing it as, it's almost like, I saw this TV show where they had these Christmas wars, and it was huge blow-ups and more lights, and every area had a light show going on, and video playing, and I think there's a lot of that's mimicking that, and I don't know. We're going to reach a tipping point with it where, one, you've lost any feel of the season, you've lost any sort of classiness with it, whether that matters or not, but it just becomes like, whoa.
Well, I think it's also keeping up with the Joneses.
Yeah, that's my...
Well, in that neighborhood.
Yeah.
It's exactly that. Yeah.
Well, I think that that neighborhood that you're talking about, they're known for that. I would guess that if somebody's looking to buy a home in that neighborhood, there's probably a neighbor saying, hey, by the way, you move here,
you're going to have to...
You're just
Halloween and Christmas.
This much. Right.
Yes. I actually know someone, and it is part of their move-in information.
Hopefully you're not the Grinch.
Right, because we used to go driving around that neighborhood before they had the enormous blow-ups and the enormous lights, and it was great. It's very festive. They give out hot chocolate and all that stuff. Really nice. And there was a couple of houses that were dark, and you kept thinking to yourself, "Are they hiding in there?"
Sure,
because they weren't empty. So they're like, "Are they just hiding in there?"
Well, could you imagine living there and you're just trying to go to the store, and you can't. Once it gets dark, it's a steady stream of cars going through your neighborhood, and you're inconvenienced to go to the store, or if you needed to go to work or whatever it is.
Because originally, remember, the Jewish festival of lights is around Hanukkah or Hanukkah, and they would do the blue and white light, so you could sort of tell. I don't know if Muslim communities do any of the Christmas lights or the festival lights, or probably not, or any lights this time of year. And then you've got the atheists who, bar humbug, they stay away from it anyway, right? So you can sort of tell, but I don't know if it's the great. I think lighting up the season's awesome, because you get into the heart of winter, the shortest days, get more darkness. To have this light's great. But then it gets to the point of, well, is it great anymore?
I think it's. I like it. I was putting Christmas lights up on our house last week. I know I'm a late adopter. I was actually putting them up at the end of November instead of.
I was doing today.
Right after. Well,
yesterday.
Some of the neighborhoods you'll see people putting up lights the day after Halloween. So they're putting them up November 1.
Yeah.
So I'm a late adopter in my neighborhood. But watching families ride around on bicycles that are like, oh, look at these lights with their kids. And so they turn it into a family event of walking around. And being here in Phoenix, we've got great weather this time of year. So it can be definitely much more social rather than, all right, kids, get bundled up in your snow gear. It's 12 below out. Let's go look at Christmas lights.
Well, you said a big thing there, right, about when it starts. Because if you notice in retail, they're getting earlier and earlier and earlier with the big box stores, the Home Depots, the Walmarts that are having Christmas decorations in there.
Right.
They used to have it after Thanksgiving. Now it's way before Thanksgiving they've got the stuff in there. And they're clearing those areas out and then just filling it up.
Well, and they're doing their best to make Halloween the close second to
Christmas, absolutely.
As far as spending on lights and what have you. In fact, I think it's probably more.
I think it's huge. Yeah.
Right.
And then you think of all the ancillary stuff like power cables, timers, everything else that goes with it in there as well.
So I think if we take that idea of all of the ancillary products and the stores that you mentioned and selling those, I think it's going to take a tragic event to stop this trajectory. Because if we've got those organizations behind it and wanting to drive more economic growth, they're not going to stop.
Right. Now, is this something symptomatic of society, right? We've seen it with the Kardashian effect, right? Where you got, it's crazier, shorter dresses, no dresses, more makeup, bigger boobs, the whole thing, right? You've got this, and it's like, what is happening to women who have fallen for this Kardashian effect, the Paris Hilton Kardashian, right? That sort of thing. What's going on there? Is that same thing filtering over into Halloween, Christmas, house decorations, and, are more people like, I would need a HOA.
Yeah. Well, I think it's the excess of everything. There is no moderate of anything, whether it's the Kardashian effect or it's your Halloween or Christmas decorations. It's always going to be in excess. You don't want to be
huge, yeah.
You don't want to be the guy that, I have the moderate. Well, I only have one string of lights on my house, so I'm not the blow up person. But if you get all those people that they want to be known for that, or I want to be the Christmas house, or
right. And there's again, I think there's that fine line where that's awesome, and wow, my kids love that, and then it's like, what are you doing? It crosses that chasm, and all of a sudden it's like, how do you even get into your house?
Well, I was going to say, I wonder, you mentioned you do it for your kids, but how many people, once their kids are gone, decorate?
I think they do. I think a lot of them still do, is to get, again, that traffic around Christmas. Which is maybe an interesting psychological area where it's like, are they looking for attention still now their kids have left the nest? And
so it's almost like the social media, but in real life.
Yeah.
Look at me syndrome.
That's brilliant, because I think that's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
I think it's taking that, I'm living my best life, look at me on social media too. Oh, look, I'm living my best Christmas by having this amount of stuff.
Which is probably also on social media somewhere that you've posted. Look at my life.
Oh, guaranteed.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So if we draw the correlation back to the Kardashians, does the term gaudy exist anymore? Not godlike.
No.
Gaudy.
Gaudy, yeah, exactly. Well, it's funny because you mentioned that, because I think there's a whole episode we have to do on stigma. Because I don't think stigma exists anymore, because it's like, oh, you can't, it's offensive, where before stigma was a change agent.
Right.
But I think gaudy's the same way. I think you'd be seen as someone who's kind of abusive to say that's gaudy. Like if you told a woman that's gaudy, like I think you'd be seen as like not someone who's even a critic, but as someone who's just mean.
Well, you can't criticize. There is no such thing as a critic nowadays, because if you criticize anything, it's looked at negatively.
Yeah, true.
You can never do a positive critique anymore.
Well, I think you can do a positive critique.
No one will take it. You may think it's positive. I don't think anyone will take it as positive.
But in essence, most criticism or critique is 90% negative anyway.
Which is fascinating, because it's constructive criticism is a term to help someone. I'm going to point out some deficiencies to help you grow as an individual. And so if we completely remove critique from life, how do we improve?
But think about it. Can you imagine if you went up to the family on the corner and said, if you got rid of that blow up and that really cheesy looking thing over there and that, this would look amazing.
Well, it goes back to one of our earlier conversations about how honest are you with people.
Right.
Tell them the truth. That's telling the truth.
Oh, it would be hard to do.
It would definitely be hard, and you may lose friends because no one wants to be told that they didn't.
Hey, you might lose a lot of friends, especially at Christmas with the neighbors.
Right,
You beat the Grinch. Yeah.
Well, speaking of critiques, I was talking to one of my daughters that's in art school right now, and one of her biggest complaints is that the professors are not giving critiques for art projects. And, she's really craving the, hey, how do I get better?
Sure.
And they're just like, oh, that's good. Don't give a critique. How do you get better if you're not, able to give a critique? Jeez. And is that part of
that's terrible.
The social change that's happened at the university level? It used to be art was, when you're in art school, it's all about critique. I'm an art major. I mean, you'd throw something out there and people would just eviscerate you if it wasn't good. Now it's just like everyone's just, high-fiving you and saying it's good.
Okay, Lauren, hypothetical. You have a great neighbor who you guys have a great relationship with. You come home one day and it's like, what on earth have you done with all these Christmas lights and blow-ups? Do you say anything?
It looks like your garage vomited.
Yeah, exactly.
It depends on if I was a close friend with him.
It looks like, no, you are. And it looks like everything that was on sale, he bought.
There's no consistency.
It's just everything there.
We got Star Wars mixed with Snoopy.
Yeah, right.
We got vintage. We've got new. We've got.
That would be a hard one. So again, going back to our last one, we're supposed to be honest with people, but we also, there's a point where that it's going to hurt someone's feelings. Just so, do you say anything?
See, it'd be I'd have a hard time not saying something.
I don't know if I would say anything. If they asked me if I liked it, I wouldn't say anything. And maybe that's saying something.
Well, it is. That would be really interesting, right? If you couldn't say something and they came to you and said, what do you think?
Or you could use the term, it's unbelievable.
True.
Yeah.
It's all the emphasis. It's
I can't believe
unbelievable.
you did this.
Wow. How are you going to recover from this?
Yeah.
I mean, it's unbelievable.
No, because I get it, like the Star Wars things with the kids and all that, but again, there just gets to a point with it where you're just like, what are they trying to say? Well, I don't get it. What are they trying to say with the Star Wars things at Christmas? Is it the middle finger to Christmas?
Ooh, wow.
So I kind of feel that way with all the when people go overboard with it. I kind of get that impression that it's no longer about Christmas. It's about, I'm celebrating. I don't care what the event is. I'm just celebrating. It's lost.
I think you're right with that.
It's lost the meaning of what the holiday was, or is.
And I think there's been an adverse effect as well, or for the positive, where the more people have gone all out with blow up Santas and Snoopies and Star Wars and things, you see more creches.
More what?
Creches. The Jesus, Mary, and Joseph in the stable.
Okay, so I'll take the other side of the argument. What if this is society's way of showing that they actually believe in the Christian Christmas, and this is a way for them to publicly show that without worrying about being persecuted?
So it's a safe way of doing it without...
It's a safe environment for them to celebrate the holiday.
And I'm not taking it too serious, so don't yell at me, but I'm celebrating.
Right.
Interesting.
Well, and I think that the interesting part is that it was all seeing Jesus, light of the world. You're lighting up your home, right? That is in empathy with the light of the world coming at Christmas. And so even if those that are doing it with Santa Claus was a gift giver and Jesus was a gift, I'm actually all good with that all over. It's just, it gets that gaudy part that just bugs the living daylight.
So is this
as you can tell,
purely American thing?
Oh, absolutely.
Well, what I was thinking was,
yes,
given our weather, is this even more significant in Phoenix?
I was going to say the warmer, like you go SoCal and Arizona. I bet.
Interesting.
Are they doing this in Wichita, Kansas? Are they doing this in Baltimore?
Do they do blow-ups in those? They've got to do blow-ups in those parts.
Probably not in Wyoming. It'd blow over.
Probably not to the extent, though.
Yeah, I think so.
I know when I lived in Tulsa for a while, Christmas time in Tulsa was amazing because of the lights.
Yeah.
They had but it was just lights. There was no blow-ups and all that kind of stuff.
Like, I still love, and again, this is an Arizona thing, you go into hotels this time of year, they've got all the palm trees lit up, they've got the churches, have got lights on all the things. I mean, it's beautiful. Yeah, it's absolutely beautiful. Our church doesn't have one blow up, which I'm so glad.
Not yet.
Not yet. Oh, yeah.
Anonymous donation of a blow up is on its way.
We have one. No, we have like an 8-foot Santa blow up, right? But that's 8 foot. What is it? Yeah, about 8 foot.
So 9 foot would be unreasonable?
Hey, I'm talking.
I only like 7 foot.
I'm not even joking. It's like there's a Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer on a guy's roof around the corner from me, and it's got to be 35 feet up in the air.
Wow.
It's enormous. Like if it was on the ground, it would be enormous. The fact that it's on top of his garage, you just look up and go, what? I mean, you probably can see it from Camelback Mountain. It's that big.
Good gosh.
Yeah, no, it's huge. But this is what I'm thinking, right? Is that as we get all this cheap crap that comes into the country, it's getting cheaper and cheaper, and people are like, I can afford a few of those things. Hey, how many reindeer were there? Where are we going to put them?
Well, so
it's like...
That makes a good point. Because it's cheap, people buy it.
Yep.
But there's no real emphasis on, it's got to look good and it's got to be an entire theme. It's just like, it's cheap, I'll just grab it. I'm walking out there, I'll get this blow up and this blow up, I'm done. High five, I'm done.
Yeah.
So will we see this be a trend like bell-bottom pants were? Because the cheap products are going to fail within a few years.
Yeah, I hope so.
The system's not going to work. It doesn't hold pressure anymore. The pump doesn't work, the what have you. And so then it becomes a decision of, this one's going in the trash. Do I replace it?
I hope so. I think that there's got to come a point where as you said, some neighbour's going to say something and they're going to get into an argument with it and they go, it's not worth it.
Yeah.
You know,
every year Lauren's ripping me apart for my...
Yeah.
Yeah, there's got to come a point. And also, like I said...
I can only slash so many of these damn...
No, like with my neighbour with the security light, like they were very gracious with it. Like, and I know they would never do lights that would be like, you know, shine into their neighbour's house or something like that.
No, and I think we could probably safely say the vast majority of the population don't have any malicious intent with it.
No, of course not. No. It's just that you go over the top. So, okay, so... Like, wrapping this with advice, I don't know if there's any advice. I just say keep it classy.
Stay classy,
that's all
San
I
Diego.
can get.
Stay classy.
Exactly, that's all I've got. Yeah.
Stay classy, Scottsdale.
I think it's a great opportunity to have conversation with your neighbors.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like the whole idea of, you know, the neighborhood going together and putting out the luminarios together. I mean...
Something like it is pretty cool.
That's lost now when everyone's got their own blow-ups.
Yeah, I think it's the spirit of the season. It means something. To some, it means the same, but to each person, it's a little bit different.
Well, to wrap this, Merry Christmas. Enjoy your lights. Enjoy your blow-ups. Keep it classy, my friend. I'm Ian.
I'm Lauren.
And I'm Greg.
We'll see you next time. Merry Christmas.